Welcome to you on the call, and welcome to anybody who picks up on the recording. Last week I talked about neurodivergent strengths, which is one of my favorite topics. This week I would like to look at how to work with those strengths to become, so that the kids can become really exceptional and not be overwhelmed by their strengths, because there's always the flip side. So it's a bit similar to dyslexia, but it appears much younger, and then they can cope a lot less, and it's much more stressful. So they get bewildered by the energy of what's going on with mental imagery, and they're only young, and so they can't explain it. And how do I know this? Because I work with older kids, and I ask them what their experience is like, and they tell me. And I was talking to somebody the other day whose child, they said they'd finally asked their child what was going on when they were just about to have a meltdown. And it absolutely aligned with what I've been saying. And they described it as, there's 500 things going on in my head, and I don't know what to do with any of them because it's just too much. So last week, the first vital step is finding their strengths, finding what they're really good at, and how do they excel at what they're doing. And the answer is most often visually. And there's a lovely expression that I use called undiscovered greatness. And a guy called Howard Glasser had a similar description. I've forgotten exactly what it was, but he was talking about how these kids who are really talented at a young age, but we don't know about it because they're not communicating terribly well with us. And so the children, when they're young, they've got quite a few symptoms that you will start to notice, and they will lead to ADHD and autism very quickly. And I've just asked you a question to anybody who's on the line. You might like to put that in the comments box. Were you or your child born with fabulous mental imagery? Can you remember when you were born, and have you a clue about how your children were born? And the same question is true for neurodivergent thinking and learning. And so what happened as they grow up? Did they get more and more confused? And so the logo I put on the screen today was to try and move from this picture here, which is lots and lots of things going on in your head, and as you can see, the little girl is really confused, to this picture here where there's only a couple of things going on in your head and you can cope with what's happening. And so today is about understanding that state, and understanding that state, and seeing how we can move from one cartoon to the other. And the things that are related to that is the qualities of each of the images, how we can improve brain oxygenation so they go a bit slower, improving grounding, talking about intuition, and also mentioning metaphors. Oh, I remember, I was just remembering a story of a lad who I was working with in Holland, actually, and I knew his mother really well, and I was trying to get him to do maths, and he looked at me absolutely shocked at one point, and he said, well, how do you think I can concentrate in a maths lesson? He said, I've got 4 videos running in my head. One's last night's news, one's my mum telling me brother's off, one is what was the other one? Oh, one was what had happened in school earlier in the day, and one was something else. And he said, how do you think I'll concentrate in a maths lesson with all this stuff going on? And I said, I don't think I could. And he looked at me absolutely stunned, because he thought I was going to say, stop doing it or something. I said, I'll teach you how to stop doing that. And so that's what we did. And let's look at what I want to do is dig down into the qualities of these mental images first of all. And there is lots of qualities of them. But the trick is, how do you get them under control? How do you make friends with your mental images? and you can start at any age, which is the really good news. So first of all, we've got over this side. Where are they? They might be too far away. That's here. They might be too far away. They might be difficult to see, and they might even be inaccessible. Secondly, down here, they might be too close. They might be absolutely terrifying. If they're right on the end of your nose and you keep visualizing lions and tigers, it's going to be terrifying. Let's move to the next one. Is what are they doing? Are they still or are they moving? And can the students switch between the two, or are they stuck in one? Quite often they're stuck in one. So they're either stuck in everything's still or everything's moving. And for children who are very hyperactive, they are more than likely to all still be moving. The next one is, are they focused? Are they clear? Are they fuzzy? Are they fractured, which means just fallen into bits? Or can you get them to stay still? And can you get them to be clear? The next one is, going back onto motion, I've forgotten this one, is are they too fast to see? There's actually people can have images that are too fast to see. I had a child once who, the minute he looked up to see an image, he started doing this. And I went, what are you doing? And he went, I don't know. And I said, well, what are you seeing? He said, I don't know, it's just a load of black dots, black and white dots. And so I said to him, is it like when you switch the television on? I'm not sure televisions do that these days, but they used to come up with a lot of black dots to start with. And he said, yeah, that's absolutely it. And it was like he hadn't got his mental images on the channel. And so I just worked with him in getting them absolutely still, because they were moving so fast, he just couldn't keep up with them. And so the next one is, are they conscious of them or not? That's not even on this chart, actually. Is that you might know what something looks like, but you might not be able to consciously see it. It's like, for example, do you know what your car looks like? Now, do you actually get an image of your car, or do you just know what it looks like? So is it just flying past so fast? It's a blue car with 4 wheels and a hatchback or something. And so you know what it looks like without actually going into, yes, I can see it absolutely perfectly. So some people are doing that as well. Are they colored or are they black and white? That's another good one. Are you looking up to see them, or are you looking down? If you're looking down, you're likely to be in your emotions, and that's not the easiest place to see images. If you're looking down, it's much better if you look up. Or even, are they behind you? I did have a lad once who looked straight at me and waved his arms at the back of his head, and he said, the lion or whatever it was I was asking him to look at was over there in the cupboard behind the blue curtain. And so we had to go and move that one. And if you're looking down, you're going to be generating an emotional charge if they're not very nice pictures. Be all right if they're good pictures, but it's still not the best place to find them. So that's all about the qualities of your mental images. And as nobody's asked children in school, in my experience, about mental imagery, they certainly haven't asked them about the qualities of their mental images. And if I think about what's the ideal, is to look up, to not have any bad experiences when you're looking at pictures, to be sort of 6 feet away, so it's a comfortable distance, to be really clear, to be still or moving as you wish, not as your subconscious decides to deliver them. So you want to be in charge of all of these. And coloured or black and white is just whatever you fancy. So you want, the important question is, are you in control of them? Once you're in control of them, we can do loads of things with mental imagery. But if they're just arriving as if they're like snow and you don't know how to control them and they're moving all over the place, you're just going to get confused. So brain oxygenation, that you've probably heard me talk about before. Brain oxygenation is about slowing them down. So on the previous slide, I talked about slowing them down and getting them to be under control. If you're doing good breathing through your mouth, in through your mouth and out through your mouth, then you're probably going to be quite relaxed in your parasympathetic rather than your sympathetic nervous system, and you'll be able to slow them down. And you'll be able to slow your pictures down, and that'll also in turn slow your thoughts down. And you can start this as young as possible. And so what you're doing is slowing down these pictures so that you're in control and that you can watch what you want to watch. Energy, next one. So start with yourself with energy is what I always recommend to people, is that have you ever put somebody else's coat on and that feels really weird? It's because you're picking up somebody else's energy and that's not your energy. So it's much better to have your own energy. And that's what that picture is about. So start with yourself. If you feel as out of sorts and as if something else is going on, let go of other people's energy. They can be really uncomfortable to have other people's energy. And so you want to be grounded, like that little cartoon down there. You want to feel grounded and fully in your body. And you want to keep your energy out of other people's space. That's one of the things that often happens with kids on the spectrum, is that they're very sensitive to energy. And so if you are throwing out your energy towards them, they can be picking it up and then they're feeling even more uncomfortable. So you want to get rid of other people's thoughts and you want to get grounded, and so the combination of grounding and breathing is essential. And so that means that you're not picking up on other people's pictures. And if you're picking up on other people's pictures, you're quite often intuitively picking up on things. So, for example, if you, with these children that are very sensitive, if you say one thing to them and you think something else, that's going to be incongruent to them. So if you say you're a great little boy or something like that, and you're actually thinking this boy is a nightmare, then actually they quite likely will pick up on it, and that makes them feel unsafe. So that's particularly for the sensitive crew, if you like. And then metaphors. So how do we help them with things like metaphors are really good at helping people to get these images under control. And I'll give you a couple of the ones we use. One is the remote control unit. So you know what a remote control unit is like on a television. So you've got a remote control that you can change the channels on. Okay, so imagine you've got a remote control for your brain. So if you've got a lot of pictures, imagine you've got a remote control where you can turn some of them off just by clicking the remote control. I've had people do that. The lad I was telling you about earlier, who had 4 videos running in the middle of a maths lesson, I said to him, well, why don't you turn some of them off with a remote control unit? And he just jumped back and he went, oh, they've all gone. I said, well, okay, see if you can get one of them back again. And he went, oh, yes, I've got one of them back. And he literally was using his imaginary remote control unit. And so that was working really well for him. Sometimes I ask people, what if your brain was a car, what sort of a car would it be? This is really good for the really fast brains, because they always like telling you that they are Ferraris or Maseratis or something extremely fast. I have had kids who tell me that they've got a Maserati in their brain, but it's full of cotton wool, and so it should be going really fast, but it's not. And so if you can get them talking about this, you can ask them to, okay, can you slow it down? Can you get it to move around the corners in a crowded street? So how do you get it to slow down? And quite often, metaphorically, they'll come out with answers to it. So that's another really good one. And one particular one I very much like is for children who are really feeling bad about themselves. I go, okay, put both your hands out and put all the bad stuff in one hand and put all the good stuff in the other hand. And so you're wanting to keep all the good stuff, but you want to get rid of all the bad stuff. So what's the fastest moving thing that you can think of? And in this example here, this picture here, you've got a rocket. So pour all the nasty stuff into a rocket, send it off to the other side of the moon, get it to dump all its junk at the back of the moon, and get it to collect a lot of confidence from the back of the moon, bring it in and drop it over your head. And quite often a child will just start grinning that they've lost all that nasty stuff that they didn't want. So that's my summary of this. And how many doors, when you think of some of the things I've been talking to you about now in the last 10 minutes, how many doors do you think you've got open now? And can you get some control over closing your doors and opening the ones that you want to look at, not the ones, all the ones that are being delivered to you? There is a series on my website, empoweringlearning.co.uk, if you want to learn more about this, which is an ADHD series of masterclasses and talks a lot more about mental imagery. But this was just sort of 10-15 minutes to get you started and to see how it worked with you.